Thank you, musicians. Get right into this morning. Maui's going to read the main verses. When I joined the Army, reservist, this is something we all have to deal with. I'm talking about it. I joined the reservists. I was a Christian. I was already saved, but I went to boot camp. And then after you're in boot camp for, I think, 6 or 8 weeks, you're able to go out. In the evenings, guys always gather together and hang out. And I was a Christian there, and guys would talk to me. I don't know any of these guys. And I'd just be talking to them, preaching to them, all of them. And there come a point in the time that no one wanted to hang around me no more. You know, I was, not that I was being, trying to shove it down the throat or nothing. It was just, when you're a Christian standing for God, people that don't know the Lord, they're against God, they wouldn't, like, they'd ask me, let's go party this weekend. We got a weekend to go party. Cary, let's go party. I said, I don't party. So you're never knowing. I said, I'm here. We can hang out. He said, no, man. What you like doing, we don't really like. We don't like doing what you like. And I'd go to church occasionally because you couldn't go until the very end. And then I would always listen to sermons. And so they said, no, it had nothing to do with me. And so it was in boot camp the whole time, weeks and weeks and months, really just by myself, listening to sermons. And then I went to MP school, Military Police Academy, and miracle I graduated from that. But, we went the same thing. No one would hang out with you and stuff. As a Christian, and then we'd also go further during the week, or once a year, you get 2 weeks. So I'd go to Fort Leavenworth in Kansas as a guard there for the prison. And the guys have been going there for years. I mentioned this a long time ago. So we'd fly in, and as soon as we'd get there, some of these guys would have girlfriends waiting for them at the airport. We flew in. These guys are all married. And they tell me, hey, Cary, we got girlfriends here, man. You need to find yourself a good girlfriend because we're coming here every year, dude. No, I ain't no girlfriend. I got Carmen. She's good enough. That's fine. I'm good, man. I said, no way. And they're like, no, come on, man. You can't be like that forever. I said, why can't I? That's how I'm going to be. I ain't going to. He said, aren't you ever going to go to this party and just go with us, be the girls? I said, never. I said, dude, come on, man. And so I didn't, and I never did it. But something inside you has to say, I'm going to stand regardless of what you do or don't do. As a Christian, you better learn, and you have to learn somewhere, somehow, that if no one else will stand, for or try to do what is right, you're going to do it. Whether your wife won't do it or your husband won't do it, your kids maybe are just fighting you. You got to be willing to make a stand for God, no matter how bad it gets at first, that you're going to make a stand for God. You're going to do what's right because your bottom line is your heart is for God. You're just going to serve the Lord. It's not easy to do because a lot of people, when they're unpopular, no one wants to be around them. They want to be popular. They want to be around everyone. They want to be like everyone. As a Christian, you're not going to be like everyone. Everyone's not going to like you at all. In fact, some will actually despise it. Jesus said they didn't like me much. They're not going to like you much. We're different. We have different values, different morals. You saw the opening ceremonies. If you didn't see it, you didn't lose nothing. The opening ceremonies of the Paris Olympics is very sick. I won't even go into it. Most of you know what happened, or maybe you didn't. The only thing I got out of it, as far as goodness out of it, what good could come out of it, I'll tell you what good came out of it, is most of the nations thought it was a terrible idea. Most of the nations thought it was sick and disgusting. If most of the nations would have said this is a good thing, then I'd really be worried. But most of the nations said this is disgusting. This is not what we believe. You don't mock Jesus like this at the Last Supper. You don't do these things. This is terrible. And most, that's pretty good. We make a stand for Jesus. That's good. One person thought it was real great and was clapping and really enjoying it. Her name was Jill Biden. She's there clapping, thought it was a great display. Well, it was mocking God is what it was. You're not going to ever fit in. Period. You fit in heaven, but sometime here, I'm not saying all the time. It might just be every now and then. It might just be because at your job, you stand for God, you go to church, you try and do what's right. People say, I don't want to be around her or him. But as you just go on through life, you're going to have to get this in you somehow, somewhere. Every person, I was only 19 when I went in. Some people say, well, they're young. You can't expect them to make a stand for God. Yes, you can. They're young. They can make a stand for God. And they can do what is right. And God can bless them. Because that's all we really want is God to bless our kids. We're not doing, some of these kids think, oh, you're just trying to hold me back. I'm trying to stop you from ruining your life. Because if you don't do right and you don't listen, trust me, there'll be a day and a moment, and there'll be more than one time you'll be weeping yourself to sleep at night. Regretting what you did because you didn't listen to mom and dad. You thought you had a better idea. Don't do it. You save yourself a lot of pain. So, Pastor, you're getting emotional. Yeah, I am getting emotional because I care. I know kids grow up in church. I want to see them stay saved. I want to see them get married to a godly man. And the kids grow up in church. Not a statistic. Oh, I went to church. I used to go to, no, not used to. No, you're in church. You go to conference. What blew me away at conference, this conference had hundreds and hundreds of young people. In fact, I think, honestly, there's more young people there than are people our age. You're talking 18 to 30 maybe. The whole hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of young people. Amen. That's a good place to meet a husband or a wife. So how do I meet them? Just wear a sign, guy. Full of the Holy Ghost, love God, and pay my tithes. Yeah, I'm available to the right woman. You always have to say the right woman. So this is called standing the day of stoning. Most of you know the verses. We'll read them in a minute anyway, but they want to stone David. David's got to stand by himself. And he's going to stand by himself, and what he does or doesn't do is going to matter. We all know that. But David's at that place. David, you're going to have to dig deep and stand for God. You're going to have to, David, you just lost everything. I don't think everyone in here, there might be one or two people, hopefully not, but I don't think most of us have not lost everything. For a moment, David lost everything. He didn't know his family wasn't killed. He assumed they were. But David, if you look at the story, he lost everything. And when you lost everything, you have nothing. But he had God. And this loss, what's amazing about the story is David is nothing but loss. Listen, you're not going to win every game. We're all going to have some losses in our record. This is a big loss for David, and I'll cover the loss in a minute. But David stands there, and what he does or doesn't do is going to matter to a lot of people. You got to be willing to make a stand, even in the midst of total loss. To be at a place where you lost everything is one thing, but to be at that place where you've lost everything and you turn to God, that's rare. Are you with me? We know it's like to have, we turn to God when things are going good, but to have nothing, have no possession, have no friend. David has nothing at this moment, but yet something inside him digs deep, and he turns to the only place he can turn to. Well, let me say this. He did not have to turn to God, but he chose to, is what I'm saying. Yeah. Something inside him said, you know what, I have nothing else. Oh, wait, I do have something. I did have a relationship with God years ago. I know God. I talked to God. He knows me. I'm going back home. That's what he's a prodigal going back home. I'm going to go and talk to God. That's all I have. That's all you need. Standing in the day of stoning. Go ahead and read it, Maui. Read the verses, and they'll be up there on the screen there for you. Go ahead.
2 days later, David and his men arrived back at Ziklag. The Amalekites had raided southern Judah and attacked Ziklag. They had burned down the town and captured all the women. They had not killed anyone, but had taken everyone with them when they left. When David and his men arrived, they found that the town had been burned down and that their wives, sons, and daughters had been carried away. David and his men started crying and did not stop until they were completely exhausted. David was now in great trouble because his men were all very bitter about losing their children, and they were threatening to stone him. But the Lord his God gave him courage. Next part, be watchful, stand firm in the faith, act like men, and be strong. 1 Corinthians 16:13. Let us fix our eyes on Jesus, the author and the perfecter of our faith. We must focus on Jesus, the source and goal of our faith. He saw the joy ahead of him, So he endured death on the cross and ignored the disgrace it brought him. Then he received the highest position in heaven, the one next to the throne of God. 3, think about Jesus, who endured opposition from sinners so that you don't become tired and give up. That's from Hebrews 12, chapter 12, 2 through 3.
So, let's get right into this. We're dealing with loss, and we know Jesus is our example. That's what Hebrews says. So think about what's going on here. It's lost. But what did David lose? You know, it refers to, there's many, many men that were taken. David doesn't know that the men, his family, his wives, his kids, all the families that were there, he doesn't know they've been taken. He assumes they're all dead because that's usually what they did. That's what he did anyway. He always killed. When he went into a town, he wiped out everyone, kids and children. You read it yourself. So he assumes they're doing what he did. He has no idea that all his family's alive. He thinks probably they're all dead. He doesn't know what to do. He doesn't know, like I preached last week, that there was a great future in front of him, but he's dealing with loss. And so what does he lose? Well, at this moment, there's so much here. Let's look at a couple of things. This day, David's going to lose possessions. Everything that he owned was taken. His house, everything was burned with fire. There's nothing there. When he goes back home, they're thinking they're going to come back to a party, come back home. His wife be out there waiting, greeting them. They can't wait to get back home. They've been doing about 25 miles a day to get back to where they're at. So they're very tired. They're wore out. It's in the evening. They haven't eaten. They've gone through a lot. They've been battling, you name it. So they come back home thinking there's going to be a big party. There's no party. There's no one there to greet them. No wife out there. No kid. There's no noise. It's silent. All there is ashes and fire burning. Everything that he had has been burned. That's all his possessions. Gone. And all the people, my warrior, where's the army at? He doesn't know. He has no idea. There's no one there. You know, the thing, David didn't leave anyone back behind to protect the family. I'll get to that in a minute. But David don't have no people because even his own people want to stone him. So he don't have the strength of the people behind him backing him. He don't have his possessions. I don't have the people. And he doesn't have his place as a minister. What I mean is his position. You're a king if you have something, but David, you're a king, but right now your kingdom's pretty bad because you led us to a place of total defeat. And so when they all weep, David isn't just weeping for his loss of his wife and his kids that he thinks he lost. He's weeping because he knows it was also his responsibility. It was his fault that this happened. This happened because these men chose to follow David as the king. You're at fault. David doesn't say anything, but the Bible says that they took David's wives. Why don't they list any other things? They don't list any other wives. They just talk about 2 wives. David's 2 wives were taken. Some of you would say, why do they have 2 wives? Well, back then, at that moment, it was legal, but it wasn't right. Just because something is legal doesn't mean it's right. So they take his wives. So I thought, well, that's odd because all the other wives of these men are not listed. Their names are not listed. But if you look up the names of both of these wives, I think it can give us a little maybe insight. Abigail means cause of joy or reason for joy. Also means cause of strength. The other wife that's mentioned, her name kind of means, it really does, brother of grace, or I enjoy the fellowship. So let me look at it like this. For one moment, or my brother is a delight. We're talking about fellowship. For one moment, what's happened is what brings David joy, what brings David strength has been taken. What do you do and what brings you joy has been taken. What you find strength in has been taken. And this is what's happening right here. The second wife's name is fellowship. When fellowship is gone, there's nothing here. There's no more. Also means grace. My brother's full of grace. When there's no more grace being shown, maybe at that moment in your life, it's a hard place. What do you do when grace has been taken? What do you do when your fellowship has been taken? What do you do when what you find joy and strength has been taken from you? You have nothing left. Oh, here's we got to be very careful right here. Is possessions, people, and place or position. What's bad about it is this. When these things are taken, how you react depends on how much trust you put into those things. In other words, if all your trust and hope is in your possessions, what do you do when your possessions have been taken? I got a nice house. I got all these possessions. I got a nice car. Well, what if all that is taken and gone? Now what do you do? If all your faith and hope is in that, you'll be destroyed. Because you put your faith and trust in possessions and things. What do? Not just possessions and things. We have his position. But it's people. So if you put your trust and happiness in possessions or people or position in the church, and when it's taken from you, you have nothing left. So what are you saying, Pastor? I'm saying you better be very careful about what you put your trust and hope in. If all you put your trust and hope in people alone, you'll be disappointed. Don't be unrealistic. If all your trust is in money, well, you're all good when you're making good money. Well, what happens when you go back to work tomorrow, or say the economy is going to go bad? Now they're predicting another pandemic. How can you predict a pandemic? I'll tell you why they're planning it seems like. I don't know for sure, but it seems like they're planning this. They're saying the next pandemic that they're planning is going to be a lot worse. How can you plan it? That makes sense to me. So, possessions, gone. What do? So you go back to work Monday, and your boss says, I'm sorry, some things came down our job. I thought we were going to give you a raise. We have to let you go. Some people, their job is everything. It's the security, it's their God. They put all their trust in their job. I got a good job, I'm good. What happens if you lose your job? What if your job is taken? Now David's in a place of loss, total loss, really. You don't have fellowship. Grace seems to be gone. And really, if we're dealing with it really honestly, we could really say that David is struggling. His soul is struggling at this moment. So what do you do and where do you turn when everything you find joy and happiness in is taken from you? The hour of loss, where do you find strength? Well, what David does, and this is what we all have to do, is David presses in instead of giving up. David presses in instead of giving up. We all are given that chance. Either we're going to press in, something inside of us says, I'm not giving up, or we're going to give up. David could have just gave up and said, I'm done. There's no future here. I don't know what else I can do. I led you guys here. My mistake. I don't know. It could have been a terrible story. It ends well. We know that. But David didn't know that at that time, I said. Just total loss. And so what do you do in moments like this? Where do you turn? I'll tell you what you do. You turn to what you trust in the most, if it's in you. What I mean, if you've lost everything and all you do is cry and weep and you don't turn any place, it's because you never turned to that place anyway. But when you turn to God, it shows, you know what? This guy, you've gone through all that, but his real trust is still in God. That sister, she lost everything. She lost this and lost that. But she's talking to God. Her trust, her happiness, her hope is in God. She can make it. David can make it because this is, you know what? I may not have all of this, but I remember I had a relationship with God, and I can have it again, and I'm going to talk to God. And what's amazing, why would God strengthen a backslider? He's a backslider. Read it. 14 months out of the will of God. David did all kinds of bad stuff. Here he is in a place, most commentators believe he's in a backslidden state maybe at that moment. Well, if he is, why would God strengthen a backslider? Because God's a God of grace. God's a God of mercy. You know what mercy is? Mercy is I'll give you what you don't deserve. Pastor Tom Payne, I was supposed to read this. One of our leaders had a stroke, and I'll just read it to you. You may have already heard this, so I don't know. Let me just read it. Sinel may have already read it. Prayer Works. It says, Prayer Works, very positive report. The last 24 hours, we're rejoicing. The scans came back, showed no bleeding in the brain. The medicine's working to eliminate the threatening clots. Other reports regarding health came back positive. His heart got healthy report. He's up, he's cognitive, he's talking, he's alert. But we're asking for continued prayer. And then it goes on and says, for his left side. His daughter says, Cary, this is Tom's daughter. My mom is dictating a response for him. She reads him the message, and then she responds, thank you so much for your prayer, but praying. God is moving, but please pray for his left side. I guess his left side is still can't move much on his left side. So pray for Pastor Tom Payne. God restore him completely. But I remember I brought that up because I was supposed to say it earlier, but I remember Tom Payne saying to me, he's a friend of mine. I call him a friend. He used to say to me, Cary, it's amazing because sometimes I preach revivals for him more than once and give some people some words. And he told me one time, he said, I tell you what's amazing. It's not that you give words, that God would speak to you to give a word. I said, hey, hold on, Tom. Hold on, TP, Pastor TP, Tom Payne. Hold on. He goes, no, seriously, God, it's amazing. I find it amazing that God would speak to you. But he does, so I don't know what to tell you. And that's what's happening here. Why would God strengthen a backslider? Because God is a God of mercy. God's a God of grace. You're in that place. You've lost everything because of your bad decisions. God doesn't write us off. He said, you know what, David, I'm going to do? I'm going to give you some supernatural strength in this moment. I know you don't deserve it. And we don't even know the words that David speaks to God because, like I said before, I'd say lots of times there's things we all say to God, but God keeps it's holy ground. It's private. It's between you and God. How many times have you prayed and you say, I don't want no one to hear this one? Right? You just pray and you're crying, you're talking. It's between you and God. It's holy ground. And we don't know what David said. It just says he found strength in God. I'll preach a whole sermon just on that thought. But we don't know what he said to God. But something happened tangibly that he was touched. Not just touched. God gave him something in him that he could. Remember, they've already walked. They've already traveled 3 days. They've already done their 75 miles, whatever it was. And at the end of it, he's got to go all the way back where he just came from. That's pretty normal when we go out of the will of God. You have to backtrack sometimes. You go back the same way you came. But David don't know that. And here he is. God steps in and touches David's life. Because God is a God of grace and mercy. The next thing is the Bible says when David's gone, it says, well, in verse 1, it says it like this. It happened that when David and his men came to Ziklag, that word, it had happened, it didn't just happen. We read it like, oh, just a coincidence. It just kind of happened. He came back and said, no, God's hand was at work. God orchestrated some things. So how do you know that? But, number one, I really believe, I told this to a pastor just last week, we have to believe, we say we're Christians. As a pastor, we have to believe that God's involved in our life right now. Not just because the circumstances are totally unfavorable, whether they're good or bad or totally really bad, doesn't mean God's not involved in our life. And so it says it came to pass. Well, the reason why it came to pass, think about it. Most of the time they killed the wives and the kids and the children. This time they didn't touch none of them, but David doesn't know that. Right? What happened? Why didn't they kill them all? I believe the hand of God was over David's family. I really do. I believe God said, you know what? You can take them all, but you ain't going to touch them. How many of you with me? You need to pray as a parent. Pray, God, keep your hand on my child. God, protect my child. Watch over my child. And don't just pray that when your child's doing good or bad. Some of your kids might be doing really good, and that's great. Still pray for them. If they're doing bad, still pray for them. Listen, God is a God of grace and mercy. You say, well, they don't deserve to be protected. Leave that up to God. Let God have mercy on them. God, don't give my kids what they deserve. Watch over and protect them. Don't let no evil happen to them. I plead the blood of Jesus over them. That's how you ought to pray for them. Keep them from the evil one. Watch over my babies, God. Watch over them. And I think God did exactly that. David, no one's going to touch your wife or your kids or none of them people's kids. They're protected. They've been taken, but they're not dead. They're all alive. David doesn't know that. But here's another point. The Bible says the Amalekites came. We talked about the Amalekites being the flesh, but we won't go there. The Amalekites came and took David's family, took them away. David does not know where they're at. He has no idea which direction to even go or what to even do. And that might be you, but that doesn't mean God doesn't. I don't know which way to go. I don't know what to do. God does. Just stay with God and you'll be fine. But one thing that's odd, not odd, the Amalekites came and took all the children and the families and the wives. Why did they do that? How could they do that? Well, I'll tell you how. There was no one there guarding them. Parent, one of the worst things you could ever do is leave your family unguarded. That's some good preaching right there. Unguarded. Where's the man at home? Where's the wife? Where's the mom? Now we got parents. It seems like everyone's raising, the grandmothers are raising all the kids now, it seems like. Where's the mom? Where's the dad? When a dad's home, the home is different when dad's home. Kids act different, things different spiritually. The man's home, David, you left everything unguarded. Why would you leave everything unguarded? I'll tell you why he left everything unguarded, because up to that moment, he had been blessed and had not experienced any defeat. Don't let success go to your head. That you think, well, I've been successful for the last year and a half. Every place I went, I won. Victory, I conquered. Ain't nothing going to stop me. Let's just go out and do our thing. Well, hold on, Dave. We're just going to leave our kids and family. Yeah. Man, God's hands on our life. But nothing but victory, bro. Come on. Don't be like that. Be positive. Come on, let's go. David, there's no one protecting our family. You don't need it. That's what the enemy wants. The enemy wants parents. He wants to divide the parents from the kids. Listen, young people, your best ally is your mom and your dad. Don't worry, one day you'll be out of the house. I can't wait to get out of here. I just can't wait to grow up and get out of here. I just can't wait. You'll be out one day and you'll be saying, I can't wait to come back. Can I come back? I can't afford rent right now, Mom, Dad. I didn't realize I had to pay the electric bill like every month. It's like every month the thing comes. Yeah. I got car payment. I can't afford it. Can I come back home? Yeah. Man, if there was ever a day and a time that our families needed protected and guarded, it's today, man. This world is so sick. Mom and dad, don't leave your family unguarded. Husband, don't leave your wife unguarded. Wife, don't leave your kids unguarded. No, you pray for them and you live right and do right and you're around. You're there at home. We all know that when someone's with you, people act different. Put it this way: when a man's there, I'll give you an example. I'll give you a simple example. I was a young kid. I know it was a long time ago. I wasn't always a Christian, okay? Some of you think, no. I wasn't a bad guy. My brothers were the bad ones, but not me. But we were seeing this girl. I was like 16 years old. We were at her house. Her mom and dad were gone. Teenagers, man, not all, but we lied through our teeth all the time. And, where are you going to go? Oh, no, to the park. Just go to the park. I went to the girl's house with this other guy. This girl's pretty and she's nice. And we're just there talking to her at her house. Her mom and dad are gone. We're just there. We shouldn't even be there. And we're just there talking to her and just flirting with her and everything. And just having a good time. We thought we'd come back. I was thinking about eating their food. Because I was always looking for food. I was thinking, hey, you kiss her, I'll go eat some food. But I don't care about her. I want to eat some food. But I was there and I'm looking around, and that's me. And all of a sudden, I know her dad comes home. That's what I did. It's exactly what I did. He'd come in, and here I am, 16 years old, probably about 135 pounds. He's probably maybe 200 pounds, not real big, but 200 pounds, but big old arms. His arms are bigger than my legs. He comes in. I thought I met God. He comes walking in like, oh, Jesus. The guy walks right up to me and my friend and said, what are you guys doing here in my house? And I'm a quick talker. I said, she invited us, something like that. That's probably what I said. I know me, I talk, quick talker, quick thinker. Doesn't mean it's good. But I said, she invited us. He looks at us. First he said something threatening. He said, I just beat you both up really bad. He didn't use those terms. He said, I beat the tar out of both of you right now for being in my house with my daughter. Who do you think you are? Oh, I know I'm no one. I'm no one, sir. He says, okay, I'm going to give you a chance. He said, I'm not going to beat you up. He said, but don't you ever, I better not ever see you around my house again, ever. Oh, that's easy. That's easy. I'm gone. I am gone. What made a difference? Daddy showed up. When Daddy shows up, things change, huh? When someone's there, they're different. I've noticed, no, I won't say it. Sometimes, can I say it? I might as well say it. We're just preaching here this morning. I've taught this, not now, I'm older, I get it. When I was younger, girls come talk to me, especially as an evangelist. They think the evangelist is a superstar. They're going to pray for them, and oh God, pray for me, pray for me. So pray for that's what they think. They think you're some kind of spiritual superstar, and they like you and take pictures and all that stuff. And girls would come and talk to me. But I noticed one thing about girls: if my wife was around and I brought my wife up front when the girl was there, they always changed how they talked to me. Yeah. Is that true? Someone say, yeah. And not very often. Sometimes my wife said, that girl's trying to flirt with you. She's trying. But my wife's down there, and all of a sudden they talk different. When my wife's not there, they go, oh, how you doing, Pastor? How you feeling? They touch you. How you feeling? How you doing? Oh, touch you. Oh, you're so good. Oh, Pastor, so much. I love you so much. You're preaching so. Oh, my word. I was preaching a revival for Pastor John Cersueta in Orange years ago. Girls come to revival. I go to another revival. She goes to the next revival. And then Pastor John goes to the next revival with me. He is Pioneers Churches, one of his churches. He comes, and that girl was there. And the girl says to Pastor John, she's talking to Pastor John, Pastor John, Cary's going to leave after this revival. What is America going to do without Cary? And Pastor John never forgot that. To this day, he will say it from this pulpit. So remember that girl thought how's America going to survive? Now he mocks me every time he sees me. How's America going to survive without Cary? I don't know, Cary. How are we going to survive without you? So, oh my gosh. Unguarded. You better guard your mind. You better guard who you talk to. You better guard what you watch, what you hear, and who your friends are. And when you got someone protecting you, thank God you got someone protecting you. Thank God you got someone in your house, a parent that cares enough to give you some rules. That you're not going to stay out all night and come back. No, you can come in this time, you're going to do this. Thank God for a parent who cares. Today, a lot of parents says, I don't care as long as they're out of my hair. I don't care where they're at. I don't care. Let them go. As long as they're out of my hair. No, that's not how we raise good kids. David, you left it unguarded. This didn't have to happen. You left the door open. No, you did more than that. You left all. There's no one here guarding your family. Bad mistake, David. So the enemy takes advantage of it. What did the enemy do? The enemy took David, took his families, took his kids, took everything, because he left it unguarded. And the Amalekites did not kill David's wives or the children. They were actually more merciful than David. It's pretty bad sometimes when the unchurched have more grace and mercy than the church. Right? So here they are. Everything that David looked to is gone. No support. The Philistines didn't want him. His own men don't want him. His friends turned against him. Every support is gone except the Lord. That's a good place to be in. It's not a bad place. It's not a bad place to be in a place where everything you have and trusted in is gone and all you have left is God. That's not a bad place to be, and that's actually a very good place to be. It's a hard place to be, but it's a good place. When all you have left is, all I can do is trust God to help me. That's a good place to be. Let me say a word about leadership for a moment, quickly. David weeps because of the pain of the loss that he thought he had, but he also wept because he knows he is responsible for it. The Bible says in 2 Corinthians, Paul writes, 5 different times the Jewish leaders gave me 39 lashes. 3 times I was beaten with rods. Once I was stoned. And he goes on and says, I have faced danger from my own people, the Jews, as well as the Gentiles. I have faced dangers in the cities, in the deserts, and on the seas. I have faced danger from men who claim to be believers but are not. I have worked hard and long, enduring many sleepless nights. I have been hungry and thirsty, and have often gone without any food. Then verse 28 of 2 Corinthians 11, he says, then besides of all of this, I have the daily burden of my concern for all the churches. Then he makes this one statement in verse 29. He says, who is weak without me feeling it? Different versions say it like this. Who is made to sin, and am I not filled with sorrow and great concern? David's talking about Paul's talking about all these things that he's gone through, but he's talking about leadership. He said, I've gone through all these things. Besides all the trials I've gone through, I have the care of all the churches. And the word that's used is the word burden. The word burden that's used, it kind of means, it's like having a crowd of people that are really in trouble. They're just really mixed up and need a lot of help, and you're there to help like a counselor. That's what the word means. And what he's saying is, I got all these needs pressing in on me that people need help, but I care. You can't make somebody care. You're not a leader because you have a name. It says you're a leader. No, you're a leader because you care. Leadership is not a title. It's caring. But caring does cost, right? Caring does cost. People want leadership, but they don't want to care sometimes. There's a price to caring. And I've said it before, I'll say it again. I'm not interested in making you all better leaders who don't become better people. Right? The world doesn't need more people leading that have no power or have no character. We don't need more great leaders. We need people who lead greatly, but actually care. Right? Care. Yeah, you need to care. You need to have a heart. Paul, you call it a burden, but that came from his heart. That's what he wanted to do. I want to care. You can't make somebody love. You can't make somebody care. But that's the price of leadership. If you really care, it's going to cost you something. Jesus is in the crowd. You know the story. He said, who touched me? And disciples said, Lord, everyone's pressing in on you. He said, no, someone touched me. Then he makes this one statement. He said, but I felt healing power go out of me. When you pour your life out to people, something leaves you. You give something of yourself. You really do. You go spend time talking to someone who's troubled or need counseling. Spend an hour talking to them. Or just get up and do what I'm doing here. It seems like nothing. You just get up and talk for an hour. Sometimes after you get them preaching and pray for people, I got nothing left in me. But it costs you something to care. It's going to cost you some time. It may cost you some money. It may cost you some inconvenience. But you can't make somebody care. David cares. Paul cares. All the great leaders, the thing common about them is they cared about other people. And saying that, the downside of that is because you care, there's a temptation not to care because you get so hurt. If you care and you work with people long enough, remember, David's weeping for his own kids, his own wives, but he's also weeping because it's my fault because he cares. But you have your family. You care about your family. You love your family. But caring and love is something that has to be in your heart, and it's going to cost you. Here's the point I'll make is this. And this one, I hope you understand this one, because it's so true. David was weeping for others. Hear me out here. Because you care, you will find yourself crying and weeping over other people's sins. If you really care. If you really care for someone and they screw up their life, messed up their life really bad, it'll break you and make you cry. It happens once, it happens twice. What about after the 30th time? What are you like now? The temptation is, I'm not messing with any people no more. Like I told my wife one time, I got discouraged. I said, I'm not talking to human beings no more. I'm not talking to people in church no more. I'm done talking. She looked at me. I'm glad she didn't say nothing. She was like, that is crazy today. You can't be a pastor and not talk to people, right? But no, you're going to weep. You're going to weep. And there's been and I'm saying this because some of you would-be leaders need to hear this out. It's normal, natural. You're going to be weeping. You're going to weep for other people's sins. You're going to find yourself in bed, which happened to me and my wife a lot more than once. You'll find yourself crying yourself to sleep because someone else blew up their life. And I've said it with tears. Why do I have to cry over their sin? It was their sin. They should be crying. Why am I crying? But you will cry. You cry yourself to sleep over other people's sins. And they just go on their way, do their thing, but it breaks you a lot more, not just once. And a temptation, you do it long enough, the temptation is, you know what, man, I'm not getting involved in people's lives. Don't do that. The opposite, the best thing we can do is press in. Say, you know what? Yeah, I've been hurt. I'll be hurt again, but that's not going to stop me from loving and trying to help people. I remember one time I got pulled aside by a family that was coming to church here. They've been wanting to talk to me for a while. So I said, let's go talk. So we went in the office there. She says, Pastor, I can't keep coming here. I said, how come? She said, well, the people that I'm with all the time, all they're doing is saying a bunch of bad things about you all the time. I know I'm not supposed to be telling you this because they told me not to tell you. You know it's not good if someone tells you, don't tell the pastor. You see, what do you got to hide? And so what they do? They told the pastor. When you tell someone don't say something, people always say something. It's not a secret unless you tell somebody. It's not a good secret. You got to at least tell somebody. It's not a secret. If no one knows about it, how's it a secret? But so they see pastors, people were talking about you, and the wife started crying because the wife was bothered by that people were talking about me, and she was crying because she felt for me and my family. She's crying. And she said, we're sorry to tell you that, Pastor, but they have nothing good to say about you. So they're always around us. I'm leaving because I don't be around them anymore. I'm done with their mouth. I'm done with it. Here's a natural inclination is to mark those people. That's our natural inclination. You'll go, oh, I see them. Oh, yeah, there they are. Oh, yeah, you think I don't know? I know. But no. The next service, I made the point to ask that couple out for lunch. They was talking about me. I'm not going to allow you to hurt my heart to the point I'll get bitter. I'm bigger than that. You said some things about me. I never brought it up. People said, what do you think about that? Don't bother me at all. I've said a lot of things about myself. Everyone in here said things about yourself. You got to hear what I say about myself. Well, she says we're actually pretty good. But you can't allow yourself to become bitter. So I said, you know what? I'm not letting the devil any room in my heart. Next service I see him, I'm going to invite him out to lunch. And I did. I make sure, you know what? No, I'm going to keep loving him. I don't care what they say about me. You'll weep and you'll cry, and it won't be your fault. That's the price of leadership. That's the price of caring. Are you with me? Wow. Well, let me just have to stop here, but all of us must learn to stand all by ourselves with God. That's something I can't make you do. Something inside you has to say, I will stand. I'll pick up next Sunday standing in the day of stoning, but you better learn how to do that. You better learn how to serve God regardless if your husband serves God or not, your wife serves God. You serve God. Young person, all your family says, I'm going to church, and you're old enough to go to church yourself, go to church. Don't let anyone, anything, any spirit, any force, any power stop you from living for God. Because as time goes on, it's going to get very difficult. And you have to make choices. Are you going to live for God or not? I don't know how it's all going to work out in the next 2, 3, I don't know. But you better purpose in your heart now that you're living for Christ, period. Ain't nothing going to stop you. Let's bow our heads this morning. David, you left your family unguarded. What did you expect to happen? Every head bowed, every eye closed. You're here this morning. I would like to extend an invitation to all the Christians here this morning. Before David turned to God, he had to face the reality of what was going on, which is loss, total loss. Now I wonder how many here this morning as believers, there's things you just, for whatever reason, you're not facing the reality of your situation. You're not looking at it the right way. And this morning you say, you know what, Pastor, I need to face this. There's something I've been ignoring. There's something I've been refusing to make a stand about. I've been allowing my own self become unguarded as a parent. I haven't been protecting my own self. But this morning I'm going to stop There's some things I've been ignoring, but I'm going to face them this morning. I'm going to turn to God like David did. I'm going to come to this altar. And I'm going to face some things that I haven't faced. I don't know what those are. For David, it was a loss. It was a total loss. He had to face the reality of it and turn to God. God gives him answers. We know the story, but wherever you're at, you say, you know what, Pastor, I need to face this. Not only do I need to face it, that's not my only challenge. My only challenge is not just to face it, but my challenge is you face it. You bring it to God, and I'd like to pray for you. And you're here this morning, so you know what, Pastor, just some things I just want to bring to God, but honestly, I just kind of refuse to face. Just raise your hand quickly. Some things that I really want to see happen in my life. Here's my hand. I just don't. It's just not there. Here's my hand. I want to face some things I'm not facing right now. And I'm going to turn to God to help me. I have not. I've just been living, but I have not been turning to God and trusting Him to really help me. Pastor, I really do need God right now. If that's you, raise your hand quickly. I see that hand. Anybody else? I see that hand. Anybody else? Maybe you're here this morning, you're not right with God. I'm going to end this service. You want to give your life to Christ. You can come to this altar. You can come down here and pray. Someone will pray with you. You want to surrender your life to Jesus Christ. Just come on, kneel down. Someone will pray with you, brother. Thank you. Let's all stand here this morning. The altars are open. Just come find a place to pray, would you?